All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Hank's List Corner. And today we have with us the redoubtable Chuck Arnett, who's here to talk to us today about Creations of Bile. And because Creations of Bile is kind of a microcosm of Chaos Space Marines in general, that's also going to figure into what it is we're going to be discussing. However, Creations of Bile is what most people these days are thinking is the most viable tournament build for it. There's some discussion and debate over whether or not you want Emperor's Children, Iron Warriors, Black Legion, Creations of Bile. The consensus seems to be tilting towards Creations of Bile. Hey, Chuck, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Good day.
Cool. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right on into these list questions.
All right.
So, Section 1, as everyone knows, that if you've watched the show before, we're going to have an upfront section that's going to cover some of the basics of the list. It's going to give you a nice, neat little primer of some of the things that you can expect if you encounter this list in tournament play. And then we're going to have a Section 2 where I get a little bit more arrogant and esoteric with the military history and military science terms as we try and apply that to our toy soldiers. Okay, so Section 1. Question 1, Chuck, what is the list?
So Creations of Bile, I'll just read off the list because that makes it easy, and then we'll talk about the pieces. Probably my favorite piece that doesn't seem to change no matter what list. Like Creations of Bile, I change around a lot, but there's always a Demon Prince for me, Mark and Nurgle, and I give him the Nurgle weapon upgrade, the demon weapon, so that he hits on 2s, those auto wound, and those wounds can't be ignored. There's tons of Catons in the world. There's tons of Abaddons in the world.
So it cuts through it cuts through the wound gating,
and feel no pains.
Good thing. Yep,
and
I'm all about it.
Wounds on hits, like he's wonderful. Sometimes I give him +1 attack, +1 strength, and reroll hits. Sometimes I don't. It really depends on CP. I move it around a lot. It doesn't really end up mattering a ton to his performance. The one thing I do give him often more than that is on a 2-up. When he dies, he can come back. Now that's instead of fighting on death. But often what happens is I will shoot him out there, he'll kill something, and then he'll get shot dead. He'll stand back up, and it's like, well, if you want to come and kill me in close combat, great. If you don't, I'll charge, kill something else, right? Like it's a pretty good thing on a beat stick character like that. So pretty good.
Makes sense.
From there, I take 2 Masters of Possession. You'll see later in this list, there is a lot of Demonkin. Creations of Bile love Demonkin. Usually I have one of them who's set up with Cursed Earth and Pact of Flesh. He's the guy who's always going to be casting his powers. The other one can audible into casting the +2 wound and the + strength or toughness, or he can be casting psychic secondaries for me.
Okay.
From there, I'm capping a couple of 5-man Chaos Space Marine units. They're going to have Baleful Tomes, so they have their level 1 Psyker. And because I have points, they each have a Flamer as well. One of them is going to cast Prescience. The other one is going to cast, Warp Buff. I forgot what it was called.
Sure.
Diabolic Strength.
Okay, got it.
+2 Strength. And then I'm going to grab a minimum unit of Cursed Cultists. It's 5 mutants and 3 big mutants. Those guys are great.
Those guys are infuriating is what they are.
Yeah, it's for 75 points, I'm often like, should I get another one in here? I don't know. From there, I'm going to take 3 very modest 10-man possessed squads. I'm going to pop the relic to give one of them the Black Rune because that's just a wonderful upgrade. I am going to give those 10-man possessed squads icons.
Okay.
Normally, you don't give icons to possessed, but in a 10-man, you will take enough damage on one of them that you'll be taking morale. And if that 5 points saves a possessed, that's worth the whole tournament's worth of price for it. So
totally,
to go
100%.
From there, I'm going to grab 2 5-man Warp Talon units. They're basically like a slightly different kind of possessed. They're a little less durable. They're a little bit faster. They hit a little less hard, but they hit more often. Right? I love them as a variety. And that speed is important. And then the last thing I take is a squad of 4 bikes. I upgrade it with 2 Flamers, Mark of Corn, and Debaner. So they're getting +1 strength and +1 AP on the charge. And then the sergeant is getting a power maul, which he upgrades to the Black Mace.
Okay.
This turns into a strength 8, AP 3, damage 3 weapon.
All right.
and the damage spills over.
Ooh.
So they can do all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
One of the 4 strats that Bile gives you is advance and charge with a core unit. So that unit can go 21 inches, then charge into a combat for 1 CP, and do a whole bunch of damage.
Okay.
He's super great into if you going into sisters, if you can come around the corner on him, launch 2 flamers into some Repentia over there, and then charge into something over there and just wipe that whole unit. Great.
Yeah. All right.
But also, if you like a squad of Terminators, he's not wasting your time, right? He's good either way. So
okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Often, I think it's worth noting, many iterations of this list, I take all the units of Possessed down to 5 each, and I throw in 5 Havoc squads.
3 Havoc squads.
3, yeah. That's not 5.
Okay.
3 5-mans.
There you go.
I put heavy bolters or las cannons on them and stuff. That's mostly because, adding a little shooting is nice. Also, Havocs are 3 attacks apiece, so if they come running at an opponent, they still fight. They beat up on elves. That unit is a nightmare for an elf.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Shooting us a bunch times, and then when you get in combat, they do a bunch of crunching.
Fair.
And then oftentimes also a Lord Discordant with the Flames of Smite is also very good.
Sure.
So there's a lot of choices in there. Lots of things you can mix it up with.
I imagine the Havocs give you more play in the Knights than you would have otherwise.
It's interesting. That's actually why I put them in is to deal with Knights. We played a couple of games, and the big Imperial Knight who shoots out all the mortal wounds is a big problem.
Yeah.
But I'm actually moving back away from them.
Okay.
I can do a secondary plan that lets me get a close game against the Knights.
Okay.
And then I don't have to mutate my list into everyone else. It's just going to be strong into everybody else at all times.
Sure. Okay.
But a lot of this is predicated on the fact that I am prepping for LVTT.
Yeah, that makes sense.
My mindset is team event. I don't want to lose big to anything, and I want to be able to win big against some things, right?
Yeah.
It's a little different.
That makes sense.
I think most of the time you're going to see a bunch of Demonkin and some support characters and minimum anything else.
Sure. Okay, so it's at this point that I feel the need to ask the question: what makes Creations of Bile different from all the other CSMs?
Well, let's go through their faction bonus. +1 strength and +1 movement. These are great on close combat things.
Definitely
wonderful. But then there's that fight on death. Now it is the kind of fight on death where you only fight on death if you haven't fought yet.
Sure.
But when you can move this much very tough, Space Marine bodies forward, and then your opponent can only deal with them with shooting, there's very few armies like Imperial Knights or Tau that have enough shooting to handle it.
Yeah.
And charging into things is just awful. If your opponent can't shoot, if I move 5 possessed onto an objective and you can't shoot them dead, you have to send something to fight them. Whatever goes to fight them is also going to die. Yeah. So now neither of us on that objective. Whereas normally when you go to do that, you'd still be on the objective. It would help you with the points. It would, but so you end up with you get a lot more primary out of it. And then obviously in general, it's nice when you would normally lose a unit, you also then kill one of theirs, right? That's
sure.
Obvious.
And I know that a hallmark of high level tournament play is that the charge phase is by many high-end players treated as their second movement phase, in which they just get they'll make charges that seem fairly nonsensical, with things that can't fight into things that also can't fight, specifically just because it gives them 2d6 plus, in most cases, 6 extra inches after pile-ins and consolidates of free movement to get on objectives, to move block people, to lock things in combat, to do all that kind of stuff. And just putting a primo price tag on using that secondary movement phase is matchup changing for many, many skilled opponents. So that is one of the big things that we're talking about when we're talking about Creations of Bile.
I think
all right.
Into that same space, when you're doing that, you'll charge in the thing you expect to kill the unit with. And then the thing you expect to screen, you charge your cultists and your demon prince in. A demon prince kills my unit. My unit then kills your cultists.
Sure. And now your demon prince is just out there.
This plan has gone to crap.
Yep. That was not supposed to happen. Yep. It messes with a lot of the baseline calculus that people do when they're setting their turns up, and that is
I've caught a few neurothropes that way.
Oh, nope. I can imagine. There you go. Okay, so still in the front parts. So here we go. What is this list's plan? Because it sounds like the list plan is go forth, sit on all the objectives, and be really annoying to take off all of the objectives if you can't do it with just shooting. Is that basically what the list plan is?
That's one of 3 plans.
Okay.
We'll go from aggressive to defensive. Plan 1. Hopefully it's something we should actually mention in talking about the faction itself. Specimens for the spider is their faction specific secondary. It's in the same category as assassination and big game.
Okay.
You get points for killing units that aren't vehicles, characters, or monsters, and then you get 2 points for that. You get 3 points for killing a character or a monster, and that's over the course of the battle round. So in the battle round, you kill a monster, great. I killed an infantry unit, great. That's 5 points for me.
Okay. So and it's like just vehicles that doesn't apply to, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it's like knights make that secondary sad, but everyone else is here to play.
It's in the same category as big game.
Oh, yep. Okay, never mind.
And assassinate. So really, no matter how you do it, I am going to rock that category.
Yeah. So, okay, that is a very good kill one.
Yeah, and then the other category is the one where we have like grind. Not so good for me. I like the MSU, and I like my units to die because there's die with them. But it works out okay. But no prisoners is in that category, and lots of people are leaning into no prisoners. So if I can take no prisoners and specimens of the spider, and then mental interrogation or warp ritual, I have a very strong secondary plan that includes go that way and kill you dead.
Yeah, because like one of the things that we've been taught that we've seen over the course of this series is there's a lot of people out there that are just running 3 wound infantry that are like elite and hard to kill. Like CSM is doing it, Space Marines are doing it, Necrons are doing it. Tau does it with the battle suits. Like you're right. That is a good meta read. There's a lot of no prisoner points out there to be had right now.
So if that's the case, my plan is actually not to just go to the mid table. It's often to go through the mid table, and leave my cultists and my Space Marines behind.
Yeah.
Because even if you can imagine, if I put 5 Chaos Space Marines on the mid service objective, and I come in and I hit your army really hard, if something goes past me, it's probably flimsier, and it hits those Chaos Space Marines. There's still like 17 AP1 attacks coming out of them.
Sure, no, totally. No, it's
you might still die.
Totally. It's a very aggressive, like Anthony Vanilla style of play. Just hit the gas, don't stop. Go to get into their deployment zone, screw everything behind you. You protect your own objectives by making the fight happen way on the opponent's side of the table.
I draw the line very far away. I do well on primary. And then in that case, I'm doing well on my secondaries.
Yeah, totally.
Now, if they're not giving up all of those points, I don't want to go that hard because it opens up the chances of losing. If they're sort of in the middle there, I will move to the center. I will probably mental interrogate instead of warp ritual. Maybe I'll warp ritual. It's hard to say. But I'll do one of those things. I will sort of hang out in the center, and I will threaten them. Particularly with player placed, I will set myself up with terrain where I'm nice and safe, but I can charge all of the objective. And I'm like, sure, come on out here. This is the price you pay. And I think even worse is if they're all close combat in a scenario like that. It's just too easy for me, right? I just push myself out there, and I'm like, what are you going to do? Come trade with me. I love trading. I get a 2-for-1 every time.
Yep. Okay, yeah. No, that makes absolutely perfect sense. Okay, so what's the defensive strategy?
The defensive strategy is I pop some things into reserves, and I set up for R&D, or I set up for banners. I set up for mental interrogate. I hang back. This is how I usually lose with knights, so then I will also take big game because I'll score some number of 10 points or whatever. But that's enough for me to just like hang back in my ruins and be like, I'm over here getting my points. If you want to come to the center, say knights, right? If you want to come to the center and do your center mission, great, we're going to go out and kill that.
Sure.
We'll get some points for that. You'll kill one of my things, great. We'll repeat this process lots of times, and I can keep up on points until it's time to say, okay, go all in.
Yeah. We
don't expect to survive, but we expect to prevent them from getting to the center for long enough for me to win.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, that is 3 very cool, very flexible plans. Most of the lists that have come on here so far have like one really strong plan and then a couple of plan B and plan C that they can YOLO into. It sounds like this list just has 3 completely different modes that it can very flexibly swap into in response to whatever it's playing.
Yeah.
And an enviable spot to be in this current metagame.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so down from there, coming down to the end of the first section, but let's just go ahead and go. What are the standout units / combos in this? Obviously, it's the possessed. What kind of buffs can be stacked on the possessed?
So I can give a possessed +1 strength or +1 toughness.
Mm-hmm.
And if I roll high enough, I get both.
That takes them to 6/6.
No, I'm Bile.
Oh,
I'm already strength 6. It goes to 7.
7/6. Oh, that's so good. And then they're 5 attack space with AP -2.
Yep, 2 damage.
And 2 damage. Yeah, okay. Yep.
But let's talk about the sergeant.
Yeah, okay.
+1 attack, so he's 6 attacks.
Yep. Okay.
But I'm also going to cast Diabolic Strength on him. Now he's strength 9.
And +2 attacks.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And so he's 8 attacks, strength 9, AP 2 damage. So he's coming in at a whole different spot.
Sure.
And it's really important. I found this out particularly with the any kind of baby knight. Possessed sort of bounce. It's not good.
Yeah.
But if I can get that bonus into there, he doesn't even. They don't have to give him +1 strength. If I get him to strength 8,
yeah,
he's doing a lot more into them.
Totally,
and it makes the difference. It's also true. It helps with carnifexes. Carnifex any -1 damage target that has a high toughness. If I'm not wounding him on a 3, and then they're -1ing my damage in addition.
Yeah,
it's too much for me to kill it all at once. When I talked about shooting, I try to soften those targets up that way, or even I'll just smite them. Like if they get in close, and I'm like, I got 3 psychers, I'm just going to try to smite you a bunch and then charge you.
Yeah,
just to make that more doable for me, because those are hard targets for me.
Definitely. Okay, cool. Are there any other standout combos, like things that, like we talked a little bit about the Demon Prince, that the tricky shenanigans that you can do with him. We've got the crazy black mace wielding sergeant on the biker unit that can advance and charge and just delete a bunch of 1 wound models randomly. And we've got the possessed that you can do buffs on buffs on buffs. And then because it all fights on death, that's just kind of an innate combo in and of itself.
Yeah, and I think the part that I think is going to be hardest for most people is just be aggressive.
Sure.
When in doubt, get on the points. When in doubt, attack a thing. I've taken that mentality to heart, and actually a couple times I've gone too far. I almost lost a tournament game because I charged when I didn't need to. Right, I should have just held back 1 turn and then done the next turn. But you got to get so much of pre 9.5 was like stay reserved, stay safe, stay careful, and this is not that.
Not that at all.
This is like get in there, do some damage.
But that is a good read on your part, because there are in my experience with 9.5 so far has been that if you have like a list whose plan is full tilt aggression, 8 out of every 10 times you have the option to be aggressive. You absolutely need to go be aggressive. But there's that 1 in 5, that 2 out of 10 times when it's just like it's actually an overextension, and you don't want to do that because you're not going to get what you think out of it, and it's going to end up costing you too much. And I think being able to spot that is very important.
I think it's the primary skill, actually. I think of all the things you can do, really weighing what your overall movement should be. Like, how far should you go? Should you be tentative about coming up? Should you threaten, or should you be engaging? All those things. That's like the big choice in the list. I think we also should mention, just go into it real quick, possessed move 10.
Yeah.
In Bile, right? And the Warp Talons move 13. The Demon Prince is moving 13. The army is not so fast that it's going to get to charge first.
Sure.
But it is fast enough to threaten the whole table right away. And it doesn't care if it charges first. It doesn't care if you multi-charge it. That's what I think is wonderful. It's like, I don't have CP. I spend them all. And you know what? Doesn't matter. I don't need to interrupt.
You don't care about fight last.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to charge that thing that has always fight first on it. I don't care. Interrupt if you want to. I'm going to fight no matter what. Yeah.
The one I really care about is the Death Guard.
Yeah.
Because I have to get to him to kill him. So I don't want to be going into it over and over again. Because then I like I said, I like to trade 2 to 1, not 1 to 1.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, everybody. That is going to be our conclusion to part 1.